Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Each and every year, I find that it is this service which always begins my Christmas. I can always depend on this Mass of Christmas, the Christ Mass, where the word Christmas comes from. I can always depend on it to stir my heart, to stir my soul with a sense of mystery. The lights, the colors, the greenery, the music, even the darkness of night. All of these things work together to add to the feeling that something very special is happening. Something very special. It is indeed for me the hallmark of what it means to observe this night as a holy night. Because above all nights, this is the night when we are invited to see more than typically meets the eye. This is the night when we take an ordinary white candle, we stick it in the middle of a ring of 1 pink and 3 purple candles. We stick greenery around it, place it on a high stand. Set it in front of all the church to see, make a ceremony about lighting the candles. But on this night, what we do see becomes for us something more extraordinary than just a ring of ordinary candles. On this night, the white candle at the center of the wreath becomes for us the Christ candle. And if you have a mind and a heart for it, gazing at the light of these candles on this holy night can enlighten your own heart and your own mind. This is the night when we take a structure that somebody fashioned out of plywood, put it together, called it a stable, and we place some ceramic figures in with it, just ordinary figures. But on this night, this makeshift stable and these carefully placed ceramic figures become something more than just plywood and painted figures. They become something more extraordinary for us than just wood and clay. On this night, they become the Christmas creche. Christmas creche. How many of you had a Christmas creche when you were a kid? Was it fun to put the figures in it? Was it fun to mix them all up sometimes? Was it fun to add other things to it? Play-Doh dinosaurs, for example. Whatever comes to mind. On this night, that becomes a special creche. It's not just plywood and clay figures. And if you have the mind and the heart for it, gazing tonight on this most holy night upon this creche can bless your mind and heart as no other scene of wood and clay can. This is the night when we speak of an ordinary birth as an extraordinary event. We use words like Emmanuel, which means God with us. And though we've said these words many times, I'm not sure we really completely, fully understand what they mean, what it means for God to be with us. We don't understand it any more than long ago the village innkeeper understood what was going on, or the Middle Eastern shepherd, or even the wise man from far off. They didn't understand completely what it meant either, and we don't today. But if we have the mind and the heart for it, we have a chance tonight. we have a chance just to catch a glimpse. Just to catch a glimpse on this most holy night of the mystery, that which we do not completely understand. A glimpse of the mystery that in this place and in our lives together with each other and with our families, the people who are our loved ones, and in both the best and the worst of times, the mystery we catch a glimpse of tonight is even then, God is with us. When it seems like God is nowhere to be found. There's a Christmas story that came out of World War I, which has always reminded me to be open to the mystery of God with us, no matter what, and no matter when. It goes like this. It was Christmas Eve, 1914, and German and British troops were entrenched opposite one another. And in the middle, between where they were entrenched, there was a space that was called no man's land. It was an area of land between the trenches where neither side wanted to go. They were afraid to enter that space and make any kind of movement into it or try to take control of it because they feared being attacked by the other side and there was no cover for them like there was in the trenches. Earlier in the autumn, Pope Benedict XV had begged for there to be an official truce that year on Christmas Eve. But no agreement between the two governments was ever reached. However, that night it seemed like neither the German troops nor the British troops had much of a heart for fighting each other. So very little fire was exchanged that night. It was at some point in the afternoon that the German troops began decorating their area around their trenches. They began placing candles on trees and continued their celebration by singing Christmas carols like Still Night, Silent Night. The British troops in the trenches across the way heard them, and one by one they started singing English carols. So you had, a war of carols going back and forth instead of a war of bullets. And then the two sides started shouting Christmas greetings to each other. They didn't completely understand each other, but they knew what they meant. Then they were called for visits across no man's land. It was hard to take that first step into that area where nobody knew they were supposed to go. They were hesitant. But finally, a few brave soldiers from each side ventured out into no man's land. And once they did and saw that nothing happened, then there were more and more and more until they began to be completely mixed up together, exchanging small gifts such as whiskey and jam and cigarettes and chocolate, whatever they happened to have with them in their trenches. They were exchanging that with each other. The artillery in the region fell silent on that night, Christmas Eve. And both sides used the opportunity to bring their recently fallen soldiers back behind their own lines and bury them because their bodies had just been lying out there because nobody was brave enough to go and get them. They would get killed. And then proper burials were held for soldiers on both sides. And they mourned their dead together. And they paid their respects, one to the other. Some say that informal truce lasted through Christmas night. Others say it continued to New Year's Day. It's a true story, but many legends have been built up around it over the years since 1914. And of course, those people in the high places in the government, they hadn't agreed to any truce. And so the fighting started again. Once Christmas Day, at least, had passed. But for at least one night, Christmas Eve night, one holy night, Both sides knew that God was with both sides. That God was with both sides in a way that allowed them to see each other more as brothers than as enemies. Amidst the singing of Christmas carols, both sides recognized that whether they could understand the words or not, they all had the heart and mind to see and feel the mystery. The mystery of the presence of the living God. It was indeed a holy night. And so can we on this holy night. So can we open our own hearts and minds to the presence of a living God. Whether it is through the music of the carols or the glow of the candlelight, whether it's through exchanging the peace with someone who holds your heart or with someone you never met before, whether it's by something you hear or say that makes you laugh out loud or brings a tear to your eye, know this. Know this. God is with us. God is with you. Not only on this holy night, but also on every ordinary day and night throughout the year. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.